I'm here at Stapelford, Tawney. The church is St Mary the Virgin, and you have to excuse the wind. And we're on a winter's day now. I thought I would show you this magnificent church. In the distance there's a sister church over there. If I zoom up through the tree line, you can see it over there, and that's worth a visit as well. It's made in Tudor brick. The oldest part of this church are these 12th century stone coffins, which were lifted out when... That's not bone, I actually thought it was a bone when I first saw it. It's like some ironwork, but they're incredibly old. And the one around here is said to be the finest in Essex. I mean, look at that craftsmanship, and you can see the original crest there. I would say a knight of some sort, 12th century. It's a beautiful area. In the distance the M25 runs, which you can hear the noise, and then over there there's Stapelford airfield from World War I and World War II. So as we enter the south porch, we're faced with some original medieval stonework. You can see it running down there, and most of this church was renovated in the Victorian period. Extensive renovations. And we're going to go into the south porch. Which is all done in the Gothic period, gained by the Victorians. We're faced with a very old beam, and looks like fairly modern Victorian crown posts. Guess all made in oak, but done nicely. And again, really nice. I'm guessing Victorian stonework in the Gothic period. Now this door, you need to really turn it quite hard because it seems like it's locked, but it's not. It's a shame to come here and not benefit from seeing the inside of it. So we've got a lovely old pine door, big clunk. And look at the work that went into just the lock. Gorgeous. So the church itself, there were the Norman family called the Tawney family, lords of the manor from 1246 to 1317, and they gave Stapelford Tawney its name. There was an earlier building here, and it did contain Roman brick. So we can definitely say the Romans and the Saxons were definitely here, handing over to the Normans. The chancel, which is the far end, was built at 1220, followed by the nave, and the timber tower around 1500, along with a porch. So the porch could be a lot older than I thought. So the tower, west tower, yeah. So got some impressive oak beams, which are so common in Essex. The ladder up there for to the two bells, and on this side you can see some of the lovely craftsmanship where it all joins together, and more recent piece of timber that's been cut in there. In the floor you'll find in this church lots and lots of tombs or stones. The Luther family Must have been very important in his area. And I did notice a lot of these tombs are from infants, so it's most likely that there was some disease. Mostly 17th century, 18 months. Going 17th century. There's some really old tombs there. We've got a very small font there. If we head down, a more recent marble World War I memorial. Some lovely windows. And again, Luther family, small children, very sad. Going to 17th century. And yes, these are 13th century Lancet windows with Victorian glass along the north wall. This is a side chapel. Originally this was enclosed or separated in some way, screened off and dedicated to St Agnes. A wooden cross here. Believe it or not, the timber was made from a 13th century beam in Westminster Abbey in London. Fantastic. And obviously it's been planed down, but we have some amazing collection of the original Bibles from the preachers of the centuries. I mean, look at the size of this Bible here. It must be 16 inches long. Looks like the congregation are in the process of putting together the Christmas tree. So this church from the outside is amazingly put together with flint from the surrounding fields, and limestone dresses the corners and the windows. We go over to the altar area. We have incredibly old memorial in stone. I shall go into the sacred area. And if you look on the sides, you can see the original bronze or brass, the Stamford, Tawney, and then a load of Latin up the side, which goes all the way up the side there. And it looks to me like it's upside down, because there's the family crest holding the scroll. Now this memorial is to William and Margaret Scott, Lord and Lady of Sussons Manor, died in 1491, 1505. Incredibly old. I'll leave that area. These communion rails, which are gorgeous, I did notice, if you look on there, loads of big bang marks. I'd like to imagine it's somebody with a big old stick with a brass end on it. You can see where the pegs been put in. These are very unusual because they've got a see-through centre. These communion rails were added from 1630 on the orders of Archbishop Laud to stop dogs from urinating on the altars. The lords of the capital manor were resident in Stapelford, Tawney to the end of the 15th century. After 1585, there was no more. Yeah, the rails are unusual because they're pierced balusters, 17th century. We've got an unusual organ, if you're into organs. Which has got very beautiful decorative, they call tubes, I think. Now, what makes it unusual is it was made by the famous Father Willis and who played here in 1873. The mosaic, I'll enter again. Most magnificent piece of work by any standards of the Last Supper by Antonio Salavati. It was made in 1883, or it's actually displayed in 1883. It was commissioned by Sir Charles Sutcliffe Smith, and his work was of Vatican quality. Again, in the floor we have magnificent family tombs, I guess, or slabs. To the Luther family. That's an 18th century one. 17th century, yeah. Now, it looks like 1862 was a really big period for this church. The pews, or the pulpit stalls, pews, 1862, and the church was completely restored in 1862, paid for mainly by Sir Charles Sutcliffe Smith, along with donations from parishioners in the church. The total cost was $526, and George Carter completed the works, and George came from London. In 1940, this north wall received bomb damage all the way along and blew the windows out, and the glass was replaced in the Victorian style. In 1968, the church survived a major fire to the spire. So it's been through it, and the newest extension in 1999, which I'm guessing was through this new oak door, was designed by Tony Mitchell, and it's used for choir and Sunday school and social events. If you look up to the vaulted ceiling in pine, this was made in 1884, so we're talking 22 years after the major extension. It's worth talking a bit about the slab on the floor to the Scott family. A significant person. So William Scott was born in Stapelford, 1428. to John Scott and Gospatrick Scott. And he died on the 3rd of November 1491 in Scott's Hall, Ashford in Kent. His wife was Margaret Swinburne. She had 9 children. William Scott lived at his wife's manor house in Stapelford, also at Faden Mount. He also held manors in Wolverhampton, Oversham Hall, Margaret Gringe, Great Fordham and Manor Woolston in Chigwell. Now these were granted to him by King Henry VII, and the reason that he received them was that the Duke of Norfolk was slain at the Battle of Bosworth. Between 1480 and 1485, William Scott purchased Stapelford Tawney Manor from Clement Spice. The estate was left to his 5th son George. And it says in the Chronicles that the whole of his manor, being afterwards vested in the crown, was granted about the beginning of Henry VII's reign to William Scott Esquire, a linear descendant of Sir William Scott, who was Lord Chief Justice of the King's Bench, who died in 1346. The manor stayed with the family until 1780, with the death of George Scott. So, like I say, we got important. Just can't get over the detail, that's fantastic. Really put some effort in. Yeah, it's the old brass. Original, it looks like probably there was some sort of sword across there that's all been pulled out. It's a shame. And coming into the present, looks like this lovely congregation are building a nice Christmas tree for the festive period, which is going to be magnificent. And very tall as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. And it's well worth a visit. It's a lovely area.